Hey everyone, I'm Matt.
I'm Mark.
Welcome to the Business of Leadership. So this podcast pretty much was something that I wanted to start for a while. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts recently, pretty much business. Mark and I have had lots of conversations at work in regards to leadership, and there was nothing really out there in the space. I think that I really wanted to kind of indulge in it, and so that's kind of why we came together to start this one. Leadership. Go ahead.
I actually got something to say there. For me, a little bit about. I'm not really in the podcast world, but what I do really listen to is a lot of motivational kind of speeches and watch those motivational inspirers. So it's something that's really sparked my interest, and working with Matt and getting to know the guy, we've really connected on the same level with those kind of things, and he's kind of opened some doors to podcasts that I've started to dabble in, and really seeing a different side of what people's journeys have been through life.
Yeah, I would say, just to go back, I guess, more or less on some inspiration for the podcast world, huge into Simon Sinek and his kind of TED Talks, how he kind of started out. He has his own podcast as well. It's called A Little Bit of Optimism. It's great. And then Stephen Bartlett, who I've talked to you recently about, his podcast is essentially a diary of a CEO, and it talks about, he has guests on every week, brings on big CEOs, and it's like a no holds barred conversation, no hold back. It's not censored, it's not anything like that, and it just gets down to the meat and potatoes of leaders and kind of like
I like that.
Yeah, leaders, and kind of like back into the psychology of early life and how those people kind of became highly effective and obviously business leaders. So that's kind of what started it, and then obviously Mark and I, we've known each other for almost 2 years now, working together, and leadership is always a hot topic that we like to discuss between each other. So I mean, it was kind of a perfect fit. Podcast, a little side project, something for us to do and kind of bond over.
And I'll be honest, to Matt's point, listen to those podcasts, really get into that brainstorming zone, I would say, when you really start chatting, is really key. And I've found that I've really taken those things from some of those inspiring leaders, using a few of their motivational quotes, or using some of the direction that they've taken, and that's where we do get some good feedback, and we start to really put one or two together and make it happen.
Yeah, for sure. Just, I guess, a little disclaimer as we move forward here in the podcast, this is going to be a no holds barred conversations as well. We're going to have guests on, and it's not scripted. Obviously, there's going to be probably some cussing and swearing and stuff like that.
So we'll try to keep it family friendly.
PG.
It's not going to be absolutely savage. So again, there might be an F-bomb here and there. So don't be offended. But we'll try our best to censor what we can there.
Yeah, for sure. We'll try and pump out. I'd like to try to do at least one episode every 2 weeks, and maybe even close that gap a little bit, and one a week might be a little bit too ambitious, but we'll see how we go. And then every month at least I would like to have a special guest on, whether it's a leader in business or a highly effective person who I know from social media, or somebody or somebody who has their own brand, or who could be the CEO of a company, a local company, or even anywhere else,
Yeah, and it's all really, guys. It's all about that journey. It doesn't matter how big or small you really are, or how far you've taken it or made it. It's all about those steps to that journey, and really what's happened along the way, and how you've grown as not just a leader, but as a person, and built those business entities, or helped develop what you've done in that time. So
yeah, for sure, and potentially give advice to anybody else out there who wants to be a leader, who wants to be, that kind of that guru in the space that they're working, or the space that they're playing in. So that's kind of the premise of the podcast. In the in-between weeks where we don't have a guest, it'll just be Mark and I here, kind of talking about any experience that we've had at work within the week or the 2 week period.
Yeah, don't be afraid to bring your your comments or even questions. Maybe we've had an experience where we can help you out, and maybe there's something you guys can comment on a topic that we're talking about. So we'd like to review those and keep us going as these episodes unfold. So I think that would be great.
Yeah, for sure. We can be reached on all the socials. They'll be listed in the descriptions of the videos and the podcast descriptions as well. We're on Instagram for sure is the big one. The Business of Leadership is the handle. So reach out. You got any ideas or any guests who you'd like to see on too? We're more than willing to reach out to those people and kind of, I guess like quiz them on business
Definitely.
and leadership and the styles and things like that. So I guess anything else you want to add on that?
Not really anything else I want to really touch base on there, Matt, but I think we should really continue to keep talking about some of this business and leadership ideas and how we've really come up with this program.
Yeah, for sure. Again, like I had mentioned, I really don't think there's anybody working in that space right now, especially for someone who's like kind of an up-and-comer, ambitious, somebody who wants to get into the business of leading people. Maybe, kind of every business is kind of different, but I've always had the mindset of people are people, man. And like, if you can lead people, it doesn't matter the industry, it doesn't matter the business you're in, you can still succeed as long as you can speak to people and motivate people and kind of be that leader. And I mean, there's a lot of attributes that come with that. And as the episodes go on, the podcast goes on, we'll definitely start diving deeper into those, I think, and that whole philosophy around leading people. But
yeah, really peeling back that layer of the onion, that what makes a good leader and, really have their success to, while they're a successful leader at the end of the day.
Oh, there's multiple layers. I mean, you can't just be a people talker, you can't just be a people pleaser. Like, you have to be able to kind of navigate those roads and those areas kind of effectively. And not everybody's cut out for it, for sure, I think. And this is just my opinion, but what I've gathered through the course of my leadership journey is I've seen a lot of people who've been promoted to a leader role or in a manager role because they've been very good at their job. And unfortunately, I think the old school way of thinking, and you'll actually hear me say that a lot, the old school mentality or the older generation, but I think the old way of doing things was promoting people who were good at their job into those levels, and ultimately you get that old school dictatorship type leadership. And
yeah, the generation shift 100%. Like, we see it in our industry, and there's a lot of times where we're just really trying to get on the same level. And with some of the generational shift, sometimes it can be a difficult task. So, we've also had to tailor our style or our mentorship or our leadership to really accommodate for the different styles of management and leadership. Like, it can be a tough battle sometimes.
It's a people industry, right? And that's kind of the premise and the reason why I wanted to go with the title of this podcast as the business of leadership. Like, it doesn't matter, again, like I said, it doesn't matter the business you're in or the sector or whatever. You need to be an effective leader. I believe you need to be in the leadership business, and that's ultimately looking out for your people, the people who, I don't like to use the term work for you, but in that hierarchy level, the people who you're ultimately responsible for, right? It takes a special breed to be able to do that. And I'm not saying I have the be-all, end-all and the answer to everything, but this podcast, I guess, as we move forward, is just my experience, and right or wrong, it's how I've been able to navigate through my journey, and we're very similar on the same page.
Definitely.
We'll just discuss those as things goes on, as the episodes go on.
Yeah, like, as you listen to this podcast, guys, it's not about, if you're not a leader, it's fine. This is all about growth, and it's all about learning and learning from leaders to how to make you and develop you into a leader, and to take those small little wins and take it to the workplace or whatever industry you're in, and really put your own spice on it and tailor it to your industry. And we hope that you can really shed some light on what the things we do. And I think there's a lot of information that we can gain from you guys too. Like, we were only talking the other day about some of the productivity and how we really see those high peak performers sometimes being scrutinized at the same level as that mid grade or low tier performer. And is it fair? Yes and no. So we get into those debates all the time, and that's what good leadership groups do. They talk about the problem, they talk about the goods, the bads, and the growth of not just ourselves as managers or leaders, but the growth of those next up and comers. And Matt hit the nail on the head there with those next up and comers, and that's really how that all kind of flows into this podcast.
I think even just outside, if we were the work element from the aspect, but just in your own personal day-to-day life, and whether I had mentioned before, it's not about leadership in the workplace. You can be a leader in whatever. If you're an avid runner, maybe you're training for that marathon. Like, that's the type of people who you're going to see on this podcast. It might not be business leaders, but it could be like people who are athletes, people who do those 100-kilometer runs, man. Those triathlons. Those are the people.
You got those crazy CrossFit bloody activities that everybody seems to do these days.
You're going to see those people on this podcast for sure. So it's highly effective people and leaders and just people who are owning their craft and mastering it. I just want to know what makes those people tick, dive down into the psychology of it, and kind of share that with everybody.
Tell you what, you need to get that Own Your Craft on a t-shirt, because that sounds bloody good.
Ooh.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah,
it's got a nice ring to it. So I think that's really something I should throw on a hat there.
Hashtag Own Your Craft.
Oh, I like that. Cheers to that, mate. Go on then.
So I know this might come as a bit of a shock to you.
Ooh, sure.
For those of you who know me, I am a bit of a procrastinator in my personal life.
Is he what?
Yeah. So part of the reason I've been toying around this idea for the podcast for like a really long time, and I find if I don't set a deadline for things, I just don't do them. So I made a deadline for this podcast to be released basically on my 35th birthday, which is July 17th, which, if all goes well, will be today when you're listening to this or after. But yeah, I find just to keep myself going on a personal level, if I don't set deadlines anyways, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Hold yourself accountable for it. I get it.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Yeah, I get it.
And if I don't set the deadline, we probably never get around to actually recording this, so I'm pretty happy we're recording this quite early so we can do the edits, obviously, and then have that released for my birthday, which is July 17th.
Yeah, guys, I want to let you know that this wasn't taken lightly. Like, this was talking about a lot about releasing this out here. So, a lot of planning's gone into this. I think it's going to be pretty exciting. And when we unveil this at your birthday, you old bastard.
Yeah. So, actual fact, today when I was on the software to upload the podcast, I created it back in January.
Really?
6 months ago. I created the name, basically the business idea, the Instagram page, all that good stuff. And here we are 6 months later recording it, and it will be released 7 months.
Getting it done.
Yeah, slowly but surely.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
No, I think it's come a long way, and I think it can only grow from here, and really just looking to see where this takes it.
Yeah, looking forward to it for sure. It's going to be enlightening, I think.
Yeah, I really do. I think a lot of good's going to come out of this. A lot of growth, and still a lot of uncertainties.
For sure. So, I think we'll cut this episode here, and I think the next episode and the next couple, it'll be more of an introduction on Mark and myself, and then hopefully we'll end up diving more into special guests and different things like that.
Yep.
We'll start off the next couple episodes with some background on both of us, how we got here, and things like that.
And I'll tell you, it's been a journey, guys. It's been
Literally.
a long time journey.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to peace out,
All right.
and see you on the next episode.
Remember, own your craft.
Oh, I like that.